It's the Van Show! Welcome, welcome, welcome! And today we are super excited, Fernie, are we excited? Oh, that's right. We are so excited because we have G. Neri on this show. Say hello, G!
Hey, everybody. How's it going?
Hey, now first question. Do you go by G or is G short for something?
Well, I like to think G stands for gorgeous, but not a lot of people agree.
Oh.
But you can call, the kids like to call me G.
Yeah, just G? Gorgeous G?
Gorgeous G.
Yeah, very nice. You sound like a pro wrestler.
Exactly.
Now, G, tell us where you're from.
I'm from Tampa, Florida, another hot place.
It is a hot place, Tampa. Hot and humid, I imagine.
Yes, exactly.
Now, what's your favorite thing about Tampa?
Well, I live literally behind my house is the jungle.
What?
And so I'm surrounded by exotic creatures and kind of wild, like Amazonian type of landscape.
Whoa, Fernie, do you have relatives in Tampa? You do? Yeah, I bet so. Yeah, it looks like.
I think some in my backyard even, maybe.
Wow, you've got Fernie Fern neighbors. Now, we brought you on this show not only because you're gorgeous, but also because you're an author.
That's right.
And so, oh, go ahead.
I like to say an accidental author, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, that leads to my next question then. So when did you realize you wanted to be an author? Tell us the journey of G. Neri becoming an author.
Well, I started off as an artist. I love to draw. I love to draw comics and pictures, and so I was a very visual kid. And then I became a filmmaker as an adult. Then started working with digital media, and so it was much, much later in my life. Writing wasn't even a grain of a thought in my head as something I could or might want to do.
Oh.
And I was doing these visits in schools about storytelling. It was mostly for animation. And this story came out of this school visit I was doing, and I thought, oh, that would make a great movie. But every time I started to move towards making it, something fell off, and it turned out that story actually wanted to be a comic. And then I remembered as a kid, I was that kid always in the back drawing comics. And so I said, you know what? It might be fun to try to do a comic. You know, it's like a movie. It's like storyboarding a movie. It's like watching a movie. And so, I gave myself permission to try, because if I tried and failed, literally nobody would know about it. So I had nothing to lose, and it turned out I actually really liked it as a form of storytelling. And then I had an opportunity to do another one, and then another one, and the next thing you know, it's what I'm doing, and I'm working on my 18th book now.
Wow, 18 books?
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's incredible. Wow. Not only are you a filmmaker and an author, but also an Antarctic explorer.
That's right.
Now, how in the world did you become an Antarctic explorer? Like, were you always interested in the freezer? What is it?
Well, I grew up in this great age of explorers on TV. There was like Jacques Cousteau exploring the oceans. There was Jane Goodall in the jungles of Africa, and National Geographic was a big thing when I was growing up. So I thought it'd be pretty cool to grow up to become an explorer. Turns out that's not a typical job. It's not something you can look up and find explorer wanted ads necessarily. So it kind of happened again by accident. I came across this grant from the National Science Foundation. And what the National Science Foundation does is they send scientists to the bottom of the world to do scientific endeavors. But they also send artists and writers, which I didn't know about. And I was like, why are they sending artists and writers to Antarctica? And it turns out that storytelling is actually very important for science. Do you know why?
No, I have no idea.
Well, it turns out, back in the early explorer age over 100 years ago, when there were people like Shackleton and Scott, trying to find their way to the South Pole, they always took an artist or a writer or a photographer because they needed somebody to document this great adventure.
That makes sense.
Because if the word doesn't get out, if the story doesn't get out, and people don't understand what you're questing for, how important your scientific endeavors are, not only will you not get funding, but people won't really understand the huge importance of the work that you do. And
So
so that tradition actually continues, and I'm one of, slightly over 100 people who have gone as artists or writers over the last 50 years.
So you translate the science to normal people, so they go, oh, that is important that we send
Yeah.
people to Antarctica, because otherwise they'd be like, oh, well, they just came back with a bunch of numbers that don't mean anything
Right.
to me.
And the other thing was, as a kid, I did not do very well at science because I was a very visual kid. And when people talked all that scientific mumbo jumbo, it just kind of flew right over my head. And so I had to kind of come at it from a different point of view, figure it out. And that's what storytelling is. Like, I could talk to a scientist and they could be throwing numbers and terms at me and I'm just have no idea, but I can ask them questions and figure it out. Like, well, what does that mean? Or why are you doing this? Or how long have you been doing this? But what I really like asking is, like, when you were a kid, what was the first time that science or nature kind of exploded your brain? And once I understand that, then I can work forward to figure out who they are and why they're doing what they do. And that's part of why I do books like My Antarctica.
Yeah, and
so I can tell those stories.
Yeah, and I wanted to get to that because this is the product of your trip to Antarctica. Is that correct?
Exactly. And so my quest was, I'm not the expert who's going to tell you everything I know about Antarctica. I'm the guy from Florida who literally didn't own winter clothes, going to the coldest, most extreme place on the planet and kind of getting thrown into the mix. And I have to figure out, like, what is this world? How does it work? Who are the people there? What's going on? And so that's what I write about. And so kids can kind of take that journey with me and discover things I discover, figure out things that I figure out, ask the questions that I ask or my 10-year-old self might ask, and we'll figure out this place together. And that's the beauty of this kind of writing. And I wrote it from the point of view of my 10-year-old self, so I call it a book of wonder and discovery.
Oh, that's awesome. And so you said you've written 18 other books.
Yes.
Now, one of those books was made into a movie.
That's right.
And you, as a filmmaker yourself, I'm curious, what was that like, getting to watch one of your books being turned into a movie by somebody else, by another creative artist?
Yeah. So I wrote a book called Ghetto Cowboy that was made into a movie called Concrete Cowboy. And, having been a filmmaker, I understood the difference between a book and a movie. They're two different animals.
Right.
And you can't literally just film a book. It would not work. And therefore, some things have to change. You have to elevate certain things, pull certain things back. And I understood that. And so my big job was to kind of sign off on the filmmaker. Like, once we started talking, I realized that we both had the same goals in terms of the story, in terms of shining a spotlight on this community, which is a real place with real people. Then, and he had made some short films about this place that I really loved. Then I was like, okay, I can see what he's doing. Basically, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to let them do their thing, and I will be a resource. Now, a funny thing happened when I showed up on set, and we had a lot of famous actors like Idris Elba and Caleb McLaughlin from Stranger Things. And when they first walked onto set in costume, my first reaction was not like, oh, that's Idris Elba. My first reaction was, oh, that's Harper. This character that I wrote that came out of my head, and now he's walking in front of me, and I can talk to him.
That's so cool.
And it's like this weird out-of-body experience.
Well, hey, we're almost out of time, but I do want to play a game with you before we go.
Okay, I love games.
So we're going to play Truth or Dare.
Ooh.
I know. So have you played this before?
Yeah.
All right. Yes. So you know how it works.
Yes.
So the first thing is you need to pick whether you want to tell a truth or take a dare.
I think I'm going to go with truth.
Truth. Fernie, do you have a good question for truth? What's that? Oh, that's right. Okay. Can you tell us a time when you were the most scared?
The most scared. Well, I will tell you, in relation to this book, the first time I was kind of heading out to a remote location, it was me and two other guys, and we were on the frozen sea ice. And as far as I could see, there was no sign of civilization. There was an active living volcano on one side of us. And we saw these little dots coming across the horizon, and they turned out to be a waddle of penguins, right?
What? Is it,
And
wait, a group of penguins is called a waddle?
A waddle of penguins. And we
going.
kind of got off and we sat there on our knees and we waited, and sure enough, they spotted us and they came right towards us. And they turned out to be emperor penguins, which are pretty big. They come up to about your waist.
Oh, wow.
And they kept coming closer and closer and closer, and literally just popped up about 2 feet in front of my face. And I realized suddenly, like, okay, this is an actual wild animal. I'm not at Busch Gardens or the zoo. There's no glass wall separating us. I have no idea what these creatures are going to do. They're making all kinds of weird gestures and noises, like, do penguins eat people? I don't know. Do they attack people? I don't know. I kept thinking of Happy Feet, maybe they'll just dance. And it turned out they were just really curious. You know, maybe they had never seen a person before. They thought that we were kind of odd looking penguins. And so they were just checking us out for about 20 minutes, just looking at us like, what? Who is this guy? And then they just went on their way. But for a while, you know, I was so close, you could see like their claws scratching at the ice and their feathers kind of expanding when they breathed. And it was just like this magical kind of thing. So I realized, you know, you don't have to be afraid of things that are unknown. Usually works out.
Gee, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about your books and about Antarctica and about man-eating penguins.
Right. It's my pleasure.
Fernie, did you have any parting thoughts? Oh yeah, what do you think about that, G?
You know, I gotta say I kind of disagree. You know, my Florida ferns, they kind of think otherwise.
Well, there you go, Fernie. Well, you know what? Save it for off camera. All right, we don't have time for this argument on camera. All right. And I'm sorry, Fernie. I didn't mean to chastise you.
You know, me personally, I love all ferns. So.
Oh, there you go. G loves you.
There you go.
All right. Goodbye.